everybody. We're a few minutes after, but let's go ahead and get started. It's nice to get to just sit and chat for a little bit. Kind of reminds me of the old days a little bit. Okay. All right, Dave, if you are ready to share the flag with us. All right. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, Dan, would you give the invocation for us, please?
I will. Thank you. Thank you, Father, for your love and peace of mind. And we ask that you heal our land. Be with our nation, our state, our community, and direct our leaders in your ways. Once again, give us servants' hearts. Now bless this time we have together. I ask these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
Thank you. All right, so the only speaker or the only guest I see today is our speaker. Hi, Shannon, welcome.
Hello.
We'll be ready for you in just a minute, okay?
Okay, great.
All right. Okay, so announcements. It was Lila's birthday yesterday. So Dan, I don't know if you want to mention that when you call Gary. It's actually his birthday today. So
I will.
Both of them back to back. Wish them a happy birthday for us. And then Ian Garner, which is, I believe, Jenny Garner's husband, it's his birthday today too.
Good.
And the only other announcement I have is that May 1st is the flag hole clean out. So make sure you've got that on your calendar and be ready to help out with that. Does anybody else have any announcements today?
May 6th will be the prayer breakfast. I'm meeting with Josh next week to start the structuring of that. So we're intending on having it again, hosting it, but in all likelihood, once again, given the circumstances, it'll be virtual.
Okay.
Jericho table will be Friday a week from now, the first Friday of March.
Okay. I'm updating my notes. Any other announcements before we go on? All right, so happy dollars. Who's happy today? I think I saw Carl first.
So I've got $10 for a whole list of things. We helped celebrate Kay Keene's 93rd birthday on Friday. We had our second COVID shots yesterday, and we will be celebrating our 57th anniversary on Sunday when we're leaving for Kauai for 3 weeks. And when we get back, we'll look forward to start doing something with the seeds we're assembling.
Earl.
I have $2. One is my wife gets her first shot Friday. That relieved a great deal of anxiety in my household. And secondly, I just had to leave here for a minute because I just got a telephone call from a high school friend of mine back in Michigan. So I've been out of high school a couple of years now. So it's good to hear from him.
Nick there?
Not yet.
Okay.
Let's see, I think I saw Alan next.
Oh, thank you for taking our car.
Things. So one, I went and got a haircut yesterday. That was the first haircut I've had in a year. And my wife was so happy because I was a mop head and she wanted me to look better. And today I signed a document for childcare. We have $48,000 in PPP that I need to make sure I spend right. But hey, thank you, John, for helping us work through that. And I had other things and I forgot them. The anniversary last Friday, 38 years Bev and I have been together, and we're still happy.
You didn't say that we were happy.
Roland, I see your hand.
Hey, I'll put in $5 happy. Got my, like was mentioned already, got my second and last vaccine yesterday. So Gail and I are both in good shape there. Happy that for Gary and Lotta's birthdays, anybody on and anniversaries and trips. Just a quick mention, my daughter lives in Pendleton. They've had ice and snow for 2 weeks now, and it's finally melting. They live on a hill. So,
Mike, I see you.
I've got $5 happy. Got to go to Surprise and watch the Beavers open up their baseball season. Unfortunately, we dropped the first one, but we came back really strong in the next three. In fact, the one game we won 20-4. So, but and then the women's basketball team this weekend had a fantastic game upsetting UCLA, and our one player was named Aaliyah Goodman was named National Player of the Week, and our gal that's supposed to be a senior in high school was the freshman of the week for the Pac-12. And the 70-degree weather was fabulous.
Roland.
I just got to ask Mike who he predicts is going to win this Oregon State women's game this weekend.
Well, the way the Beavs have been playing, I think we'll give them a game. I mean, we got slaughtered the first game, but I think we beat UCLA and Oregon lost to UCLA, so I think we got a shot.
Yeah, hope so.
Dan.
10 happy dollars, gone a couple weeks, but a lot of good things. I saw Mike in Surprise and watched that first game and sat in the sun. It'd been a long time since we were able to do that. And even though we lost that game, it was fun to see friends and watch the Beavers start their season. I'm in agreement, and I think the Beaver ladies are playing for more than the Ducks are. If they win, that'll solidify them getting in the national tournament for the girls. This is my daughter's birthday, her 26th birthday today, and we talked to her yesterday, which was her birthday in New Zealand, since they're a day ahead of us. And she's moving in about 3 weeks to a great place on the coast near Dunedin. And hopefully we're this time next year able to go visit her. 50th year Oregon State reunion coming up this next year, and trying to get my golf team together that I played on. And there's some guys that are interested. So hopefully by the fall, we'll be able to get together and share that reunion of 50 years ago. I don't know how that happened, but here we are.
Michelle, I think I saw your hand.
Yeah, I'll just give a shout out to the Redmond School District and the Redmond High School specifically for getting our kids back in school this week. So happy that Danny and Olivia are back. As a parent, there's a real powerlessness in this process. And so, we're just thankful for the people who have taken the lead on it and made it happen. And then I'm also very thankful that that John's willing to do taxes from Hawaii. So looking forward to it, honey. You can put me down for 5 for that.
Hannah and Truman.
Hi, Hannah and Truman, and I will put in $5 just for the cause. And I'm grateful for Truman. We're both grateful for each other. What do you want?
I know. We turned in our tax materials Monday.
Yep.
And are waiting to hear what the result might be.
Yes. And we're not itemizing this year. So that's our 2 cents, except for one thing. I want sympathy. I miss getting an appointment when they opened it up for 70 and older for the vaccine. So I'll keep an eye out for the next one.
Okay, John, I've seen your hand a couple times.
I'll second what Michelle said about our kids being in school. They had their first day of school on Monday. And it was, they won't admit it, but I certainly noticed the difference. There was a different way that they came home, and their interaction with kids at school, it was just, and their teachers was just great. I also want to throw a couple dollars out. Friday, Michelle and I went to dinner downtown, actually got to eat in a restaurant. And then we stayed at the Redmond Hotel. And I have to tell you, there was people everywhere. And it's so great to see our community supporting our downtown and our businesses, and trying to help them get through this time. So that was really positive to see. And the last one is, I think some of you know I'm helping coach football. We actually, provided nothing changes and everybody knock on wood, we're supposed to have a game next Thursday versus Ben. So that's the JV, and then the varsity is supposed to play Friday night against Ben. So kind of an old rivalry that went away when the Redmond went to 5A and Ben went to 6A has come back. So hopefully we get to play them next Friday. So it's Thursday and Friday. So looking forward to that.
I have a question for John.
Yep.
You and I have an appointment tomorrow morning. I'm assuming that's still here in Redmond and not in Hawaii.
Yeah, it's in Hawaii. Carl's taking me to Hawaii with him.
Okay. I'll have to get tickets quickly.
Either that or Carl needs a really big suitcase.
Really big.
Because there's multiple people going, it sounds like. Well, I'll put in $5 happy dollars. I know I've told a few of you that we've been shorthanded lately. Our store manager got tapped to help with the PPP loan process. And so he has been here, but not here for over a month now. So we've been short his help. And then week before last, one of our employees got sick and thought they might have COVID. And we've been waiting this whole time for results just because of the way the timing works out. They tell you 3 to 5 business days for your results, but they don't count the day of the test. Well, she was tested on a Friday. The following Monday was a federal holiday, but a lot of the medical community will actually work on federal holidays. So they were actually there. So we counted that as day 1. So by Friday of last week, we still hadn't heard anything, and we can't let her come back without those results. And then the clinic was telling her that things were delayed even further because of the ice storms. She ended up on the phone with the clinic last night, and they said they were just finally getting results back for people that were tested on the 10th. And so they offered to do a rapid results test on her. And last night came back negative. So we have her back today. So I am forever grateful because we are exhausted. I have been running the drive up for the last week and a half and trying to manage everything else. And it's been a lot. So I'm very grateful she's back and we've got a little bit of support. So we're not fully staffed yet, but we've got relief. So grateful for that. So, okay. Any other happy dollars? John, I see you.
Thank you. First of all, I'll put in $5. I just got several things. First of all, happy to get that second COVID shot, and big relief in a lot of ways. I guess another thing is that I have had another student call and talk with me, and it was kind of nice. I should say, actually contact me by computer, but I think what's happening is that they know I'm getting old, and they talk to one another, and they call every week or so. I think just to make me happy. I'm not sure. It was kind of fun yesterday walking in the canyon and hearing the school bells going off in the background, kind of one step closer to getting back to normal. Another thing that happened is that my computer broke. The whole right-hand side of the laptop just quit working, which should be a sad dollar, but it means I get a new one. So that's kind of fun also. And there's probably a couple other things, but that's all I have for now. Once again, John, $5 up to my account, please.
Okay, anybody else before we move on? All right, I don't see any hands. Okay, so our joke today, this one's kind of a little bit of a story. So a young boy enters a barber shop and the barber whispers to his customer, "This is the dumbest kid in the world. Watch while I prove it to you." The barber pulls out a dollar bill in one hand and 2 quarters in the other. And then he calls the boy over and he asks, "Which do you want, son?" The boy takes the quarters and leaves. "What did I tell you?" said the barber. "That kid never learns." Later, when the customer leaves, he sees the same young boy coming out of the ice cream store. "Hey, son, may I ask you a question? Why did you take the quarters instead of the dollar bill?" The boy licks his cone and replied, "Because the day I take the dollar bill, the game is over." All right, Shannon, the floor is yours.
All right, thank you. I guess I was asked to come chat with y'all and introduce myself as part of City Council for the City of Redmond. I am one of the new councilors that was elected back in November. And I'm very thankful for y'all having me. I don't really have a whole lot planned. I'll talk a little bit about my platform, but I really wanted it to be interactive. If anybody had any questions regarding myself, I can speak to my views. I can't speak for council views, but anything factual based about council, I'd be happy to answer as well. I am an engineer. You'll hear in a lot of stuff I say, I'm originally from Texas. I moved up to Central Oregon. I relocated up here. My husband and his kids live here. And I 100% echo the sentiments y'all have about the kids going back to school. I know our kids were ecstatic. The interaction is critical for them. And I know the school district's been working diligently to accommodate the hybrid schedules, but we're definitely excited. And it's a lot quieter when I do conference calls now without the kids in the kitchen and running around. So we're super excited about that. I am an engineer by trade. That's what I do for my career full time. I'm licensed in several states. I managed a water utility down for the city of Houston on the transmission and distribution side, and I've done a lot of design work. And now I've transitioned into the technology side. So I'm very well versed in different aspects of engineering in the industry, which is one of the big things I bring with my platform as a counselor is my knowledge for infrastructure. And infrastructure is a very common topic that comes up in the city of Redmond. We hear a lot of discussion about the transportation plan pertaining to 97 and how we accommodate growth with that. There's the large scale water projects going on in town, the relocation and expansion of the wastewater treatment facility, how we can make sure we're being proactive with infrastructure to accommodate growth and allow growth, but where do we find that fine line where we're being proactive with that infrastructure and we're still allowing growth, but maybe we're having to mitigate some of that growth so we don't get out ahead of ourselves as with the current situation that we're in. So that's really where I take a deep dive into the technical side as an engineer for some of those sorts of projects you see us already talking about and larger projects that will be coming down the pipeline. I do strive to help local business. I know that's a big topic, especially with COVID. We've lost a lot of businesses. We've seen downtown. We're doing great with revitalization. And then we've had to take a step back and we've lost some businesses. There's a lot of talk about the trusts that own businesses downtown and some of those buildings that have sat vacant, how we can support our local community because Redmond really is about the citizens. We need to support those local businesses and make sure that they survive. These are the friends and family that we go and see and we have a beer or we have lunch and we support and they essentially become family to us because Redmond is a tight-knit community. We're very, I wouldn't say limited, but we all have our local hangouts where we go see, and it's great to see the owners of the establishments in there because you can have a conversation. So it's making sure that we can sustain where we are and not lose any more businesses, but also excel once this pandemic is over. But also making sure that those businesses know what they have that's accessible as far as assistance or grants or funding. So something to make sure that they have a voice, they know they can come to council and talk to us, and we can provide guidance. As far as citizens, I'm big on being accessible. That's why I was very excited to come talk to y'all today. I'm always available. I do my best to respond as quickly as I can. I'm always happy to answer questions. I love to get out in front of groups like y'all. I was with the Band of Brothers yesterday at their luncheon, just to meet people so they can put a face with a name. I always encourage people to get on and watch the council meetings. While they can be long and drawn out at times, speaking of kids, well, they can be long and drawn out at times. To really get the full story of what's happening with the council meeting or in a council meeting, or to participate in public comment, as many of y'all know, put in, and we love to hear your opinion and be able to provide the information and take any ideas into consideration moving forward. So that, and I apologize, the kids just got home from school, so there's a little bit of background noise with the dogs and the kids. Community involvement, like I said, is big for me. I've been starting to work with the senior center and Maureen over there, because that's a great facility in Redmond that we definitely want to see prosper, and partnerships with other organizations and how we can make those beneficial and really disseminate information to the community, because Redmond is a hotspot. Redmond has a lot of long-term residents, but Redmond also has a lot of people that come here to retire. Bend is quickly growing, and we are definitely not Bend, nor do I think we should strive to be Bend personally, but we definitely want to make Redmond the best it can be, while realizing we need to take care of all of the population, those that, like I said, are long-term or those that have relocated here. Like I said, I encourage everybody always to come out and watch council. I know you see a lot of media circulating around council meetings, but really to get a full idea of what's happening, I do encourage people to go in and watch, because we do talk about quite a bit. So with that, I guess that's a lot about me. Does anybody have any questions for me specifically? I see Alan's hand go up first.
Thank you, Shannon. I was mayor before Mayor Endicott, and I just want to thank you for stepping up and doing the volunteer work it takes to run a city. I hear lots of competency there. I'm really happy to hear that. What I'd kind of like to know on the side is, you were from Texas and Houston, and they've had all these troubles down there. Talk a little bit about their water system and why they can't get it up and going.
I would love to. They'd probably get mad at me. I was actually supposed to be there this week, meeting with the utility, because I'm still very close with them. I actually fly out tomorrow now, and I'm going down there to help out some friends and family. As an engineer, I can at least help get broken pipelines inside homes working until they can get the plumbers in. As far as, so I'll dive into the nerdy hydraulic side of things. Basically with Houston is one pressure plane. So with that being said, at only one point in the entire city, it's 462 square miles, there's only 40 foot of elevation change between where their water treatment facilities are and Intercontinental Airport or George Bush Airport. So there's not a lot of static elevation change. To add to that, they have an exception for elevated storage tanks. So they don't have those high water towers that would provide that additional pressure using static elevation. They solely rely on ground storage tanks and pumps. So they pump from the east side to the center. They hit a line where they have pump stations. They pump out to secondary pump stations and so forth. So when the energy system went down, all of the water systems are required to switch over. They have ATSs, automatic transfer switches, that switch over to gensets. Well, per FEMA, you only have to operate at 50% capacity with those gensets. So now you've docked your water system down 50%, and now you have all these pipelines breaking in people's homes, so you have an artificial demand created on the system. So they basically, and to boot, this is what they call low demand season, all of those utilities in Texas. So they have most of their facilities at 50% capacity already because they're doing routine maintenance or large projects. And we're talking, million-gallon basins that you can't bring back on overnight because A, you'd have to treat it, and B, you don't have the equipment in place because it's being maintained. So there were a lot of blows that they took. So they're basically operating with the peak season demand that you would see in summer. Houston is 500 million gallons per day instead of their usual, 200 to 300 million gallons per day that they would see during winter. Now with pressure coming back, and Houston was able to lift their boil water notice, they had to demonstrate that chlorine residuals did not drop below the Environmental Regulatory Agency, TCEQ's mandated rate of 0.5 milligrams per liter. So they did additional testing, ensured that their water quality was safe for the customers. We're able to lift that, but now they had to create an incentive program, and this is something I had to do because I managed all of their large diameter lines. They created an incentive program that for every main break that's called into 311, which is the assistance line, they'll donate money to the water fund to help people with their water bills. Because the water system, they have to put it in perspective, they have 7,500 miles of water line in the city because they're a regional water provider. So trying to find, and there's 600 people in drinking water solutions. So across the board, trying to find all of those main breaks is impossible. So they're really relying on the public to help out. So when they brought it up to pressure, now they have all this water loss in the system and they're trying to identify where that's coming from. So they're losing a lot of revenue. So long story short, that's what's going on down there. They have been able to recover pressure, but they are by no stretch out of the woods yet. None of those utilities are until they repair all those large lines. So. Sorry, you get me going on engineering and hydraulics and I can talk for days.
It was great to hear. I'm an engineer also.
Oh,
and
wonderful.
You and I will have fun chatting.
Yeah, I look forward to that.
I was also a counselor, and I echo Alan's welcome to the community and your involvement. So we need more women on council. Good for you.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm excited, especially having worked for a utility as an employee. Being a public servant was my favorite part of my career. Now being able to do it in this capacity as a pseudo public servant definitely has me excited.
So I heard something I have to ask. Did you indicate that the water treatment plant is being looked at to relocate?
No, so we actually don't have a water treat. Well, we don't have a surface water treatment plant here. We have water wells. No, the wastewater treatment plant. They presented that to us 4 to 6 weeks ago, I want to say. So it's public, and they're looking at relocating it out and creating a lagoon system and demolishing the site that's on the end of the dry canyon.
Bet the developers will like that. Good. Look forward to talking to you.
Yeah, likewise. Thank you. Next question. Yep. Hannah and Truman.
I was reading a little blurb about the Deschutes County Fairgrounds expanding, but are you involved in any of that about the Redmond Hub, the National Guard, or is that all the county, not the city?
We have discussed the relocation of the armory. That has come across our table, but as far as my involvement as a new counselor, we have not really talked about the expansion of the fairgrounds at this point. I don't doubt that it has been discussed, but as far as next steps, that hasn't come across our desks as counselors at this time of the year.
Is the city council involved at all in the preparation for a major earthquake at all, the city?
The city is, and I can speak to that too as an engineer. We do talk about that. And we did have some discussion last night, but so as far as like the drinking water system and utilities, the EPA is required that we develop what's called an ERP and an RA, an emergency response plan, and a risk and resiliency assessment. And what I did when I was with the utility was built in a lot of the large scale emergency management plan for that. And so, yes, we do have discussions regarding that. We do have involvement in that. Yeah, they actually talked about the Cascadia event a little bit last night and how we would accommodate it.
Oh, good.
Yeah, that's big. I mean, that's, for me, some of the ideas I like to bring to the table. When I was with Houston, Anheuser-Busch was our largest industrial customer. We wanted to keep them in business and functional, but it's in their contract that if a hurricane or a large scale event were to occur, then they have to start canning water. So looking at some of the large breweries in the area, how can they, if we keep them in water, how can we have them assist and get water instead of us having to try to bring large quantities of bottled water across the mountains if there's a Cascadia event, if the bridges wash out or are no longer there, they fall. How do we make sure that we can assist ourselves and be safe, but also accommodate people if they have to come our direction, because they'll typically be coming across the Cascades towards us.
That's why we moved here. I have a place for my family here. They have to come over. So thank you.
Yeah, no, it's like I came from the land of hurricanes, flooding, tornadoes, and to the land of earthquakes and forest fires. So I thought I was escaping, but apparently not.
Go ahead, Carl.
When will the low income housing project get underway that the legislature authorized off of Northeast 9th?
Oh, that's a great question that I actually don't know the answer to. Like I said, it hasn't been brought to us since we've been brought in December. I would imagine that we'll have an approval come across our desk when we start getting conditional use permits or things like that. But I can definitely find the answer out to that and get back to you and have that sent over to you.
Thank you.
I apologize. I didn't know.
Have you identified any holes in our system that could put us on par, whether it's electric or water, with something that Texas is going through?
Not as far as what Texas is going through. I think, like I said, about the emergency response plan, that really focuses in on water systems. And I know the director of the utility and the city engineer and the public works director, Bill, are all working very closely to make sure that's fine-tuned. And the whole point of that is to make sure that we stay in water, that we don't experience what happens like it's happening in the South. But also with the new water project being constructed, they're doing a great job to make sure we have the available capacity, especially with that being up on the hill. We have a lot of gravity to the system instead of relying solely on pumping. So that's a huge help. We're also used to the cold weather. I think the emergency response here really is going to be more towards responding to a cascading event, other than what Houston's going through, or Texas in general, the South. I think we're much more efficiently set up. It's definitely a smaller system. Larger systems have their struggles. I guess, and for those of y'all that don't know, it's public knowledge. My husband actually runs the water utility here in Redmond. That's how we met. I was running Houston and he runs it here. And we met at a national conference, but I know that they work diligently to make sure that we're okay and we're taken care of. I don't envision we would see something catastrophic like they are. But that's, who's to say there's something that we haven't seen yet. But I haven't, as an engineer, seen any holes. And I've talked with them quite a bit about especially critical infrastructure here.
Shannon, he gave us a tour maybe a year ago, maybe 2 years ago, where he took us up on top of the tank.
Oh yeah, the concrete tank over there that has the awesome fireman staircase. Yeah,
that was incredible.
And the views up there are gorgeous. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's on our website, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, awesome. Yeah.
Dave will pop it up here in a second. So.
Yep, Josh is my husband. We got married. We got married amidst the pandemic. We had to change our wedding date 3 times. So.
Cool.
Next question.
Well, John also told us how clean and fresh the water is in Redmond, and I didn't know water could be fresh, but he says they only pump what we need and they move it from reservoir to reservoir so it doesn't get stale.
Yeah. Yeah, no, you're 100% correct. That's one of the things, especially because we're 100% groundwater here. Usually you see water quality issues with surface water because you have a lot of particulate matter, a lot of sediment. The groundwater here is amazing. It comes out of the ground cold. Honestly, we probably could get a treatment exception for having to put chlorine in it. But that would take a whole other process, and I can't speak for the utility. But the water, yeah, we don't see degradation of chlorine. We're pretty lucky with our water source up here.
Has anything surprised you so far for being on council in the last 2 months that you weren't expecting?
That's kind of a loaded question.
Yeah, it was.
No, Right. One of the things that surprised me personally are definitely not necessarily the politics, but definitely how involved people are. I guess the smaller the community, the more tight knit. Like I said, Redmond's pretty tight knit. You can't go somewhere without running into somebody you know, whereas larger cities you don't. And it's, I guess, in a city like Houston, I went from 6.2 million people metro or suburb, 2.5 million metro to 32,000. I think I was pleasantly surprised with how involved the community is, with how people aren't afraid to approach me and speak to me when they know who I am, to ask for guidance for how they can have their opinion heard. I think that's definitely something that surprised me, especially when I started running for office, because people just seem so far removed in the larger cities. I think, as I said, I think communication is key to me. I think that as a group, and again, I only speak for myself, as a group, we need to really focus in on the communication. Oh, there's the tank. As a group, we really need to focus on communication and not let the noise, the ancillary agendas get in the way. If we want to do what's in the best interest of the community, then we really need to focus on that communication. I was going to say, is my husband going to pop up on there? Are y'all trying to distract me? I was waiting. But I think, as we have some ways or way to go, or a ways to go, but we'll get there. I think we have an amazing group of people. I think we have an amazingly diverse group of people with differing opinions that will bring so many great aspects and ideas to different things going on in the city, instead of being cookie cutter and just advancing blindly without any progressive discussion or vetting out of ideas. None of us are afraid to shoot anything down. None of us are afraid to question anything. We've had a great group of individuals step up. There he is. Now you're distracting me. I think that's the last time he wore a suit. I've lived here over 2 years and he's never worn a suit since I moved here. So, yeah, for those of y'all that don't know, that's my husband, Josh. That's funny. But he does. He is a great resource for water. He knows this stuff and he takes great care of the water system here. Yeah. But as far as other surprises, it's a 4-year term. I'm excited to see where we go. I'm excited to see what we get accomplished. But like I said initially, I really look to groups like y'all that are so heavily involved in the community to speak up and provide those opinions and thoughts, and definitely encourage y'all to come speak to us at council. Or like I said, reach out to me personally just to chat, especially if there's any other questions.
Well, I'll ask another question if no one else has one. One of the things that's kind of been an ongoing issue, probably since before you got here, is the vacancies downtown. Still a lot of buildings down there that would be great to have build, particularly like the old bank building that's right next to Brick House. I know there's some renovation work going there, but do you have any new ideas or fresh thoughts on how to get the owners of those buildings involved back in? A lot of them these owners live elsewhere. So,
right.
Any ideas on how to get them back involved and get some tenants down there?
Yeah, so I do know what's happening at the bank building. I don't know if it's public knowledge yet, so I won't say, but there is something moving into that facility or that building that will take over, and that's why they're expanding out to the back for the addition, and then there will be a business in the front. As far as downtown, and I kind of touched on this when I first talked about local business, and we've talked about it at I believe a workshop for council. Several of those buildings are owned by trusts. It's not necessarily that they live out of state, which several of them do, but when you come, there's a particular location downtown that's prime real estate. It's right when you come into downtown, but I believe there are 13 people involved in the trust, and that building's been for sale for a really long time, but they're asking a crazy amount of money for it. And whenever they get an offer, they can't get all 13 people in the trust to agree. So it goes nowhere. And that's what happens with a lot of those buildings downtown. So we have approached the idea of an ordinance or such where we can, if a building stands vacant for so long, how can we, I don't want to say force hands, but how can we constructively work with those trusts or those owners if a building's been sitting vacant for a said period of time? That is a very, very heavy topic of discussion for us because, like I said, we were making such great strides with revitalizing downtown, and we've taken several steps back. I mean, with Red Martini closing, with Soup to Nuts going for sale, with the pawn shop, with him retiring, and that spot being vacant. I think, you know, we just let the parking lot, we just put the parking lot right there at Evergreen and that'll bring more parking to downtown, which is critical because it's mostly street parking. But it is, I do agree with coming up with an ideology or a path forward of how can we work with these owners or not businesses, but owners of the buildings to come to an agreement of, okay, you've been vacant for this amount of time. It's time to make a move. We don't want to overstep our boundaries because we are limited as a local government, but I do think there's something we need to seriously put in place because that is what everybody sees when they come to Redmond. That's what when we have the streets open and we have, you know, festivals or Halloween down there and there's all these vacancies, we don't want to lose those community engagements. So I think there's a lot of moving parts for that. It's tough, but I do want to assure you it's something that comes up a lot. I know myself and another counselor are very, very aggressive about supporting not losing any more businesses, supporting those businesses, but also finding a way to bring more businesses in. How can we entice those businesses? So yeah, we do talk about it. It's just how do we do it effectively and constructively without overstepping our boundaries as elected officials. Any other questions? Did I talk?
One more.
Okay.
South Highway 97. Can you give us an update on that?
So that is obviously a hot topic of conversation. The $300 million bypass, from what I have been brought into, has been put on the table or has been put aside for the time being. We are actively having discussions about it. I do fully believe, and this is something, especially as an engineer, that I get asked consistently. We are still looking at the idea of not a bypass, but a reroute for some of that heavy industrial traffic to go straight to the industrial areas. We haven't come to that's the current plan. We haven't come to any conclusive decisions as of yet because we keep having discussions about it. And I do believe we're going to have an internal workshop for council regarding that. I think from my perspective, one of the things I want to be careful of is when we project for things such as this, as we say, you know, Redmond will be X population by 2050. A lot of times those are conservative and we overshoot. And then we take all of ODOT's budget and all of our budget in the partnership and we spend $300 million when all those businesses along 97 are impacted as well. How can we remove some of that heavy industrial traffic, the 18-wheelers, and make that area more safe, but also look at some of those overpasses on the north and south side that we've talked about to prevent some of the dangerous intersections where we see a lot of the pedestrian accidents or motor vehicle accidents. Like I said, it's a huge topic of discussion. I think from my opinion, from what I'm watching, there's pushback from both directions, which is why we need to have a specific discussion regarding that. I'm sure if any of y'all have watched council, you see those differing opinions, or if you read any of the packets, it's in the packet every week pretty much. But as of right now, that's my understanding is the plan is to have that secondary route traffic from the south side of Redmond out towards industrial while looking at improvements to the 97 corridor to accommodate standard traffic.
That's been a hot topic for many years.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know there's been a lot of blood, sweat, and tears put into that plan, and it's constantly changing, or things are getting tabled, or I think there's a lot of frustration because so much time has been put into that plan, and as soon as we feel that it's come to a close, or not a close, but a point where we can move forward, it gets changed again. So I do. That's why there's a lot of frustration, and you understand that, Alan. There's a lot of frustration circulating that. And me as an engineer, whenever I'd have to redesign something, I'd be super frustrated because I spent all this time doing this, and now we're changing it. So that's basically what's happening, I feel.
Well, sometimes that means that plan wasn't exactly the best plan to start with. So that's why it never really gets decided. So as I hear you talk, I'm going, I want to sit down with Shannon and I want to have a longer discussion. How do you do outreach? Is there a way we could all sit down? Is there a plan on how we could sit down across the table with you and pull out maps and have maybe an hour discussion? How could we manage that?
With me, yeah, just ask. I'm happy to come and speak. Like I said, I 100% like to make myself accessible, especially when it comes to infrastructure issues. As Ann knows, as engineers, we can totally geek out and get talking about this kind of stuff. But it's just a matter of trying to get it scheduled and find a location if everybody's okay being together with everything going on with COVID to do that. I'd be happy to.
So you're okay with masks and 6 feet apart and standing around the table?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Great.
Cool.
Yeah, I wouldn't ask anybody to compromise themselves in a situation they're uncomfortable with, but if we follow protocol, I'm perfectly fine with that.
So if we get hold of you on email, could we meet like down in city council chambers on some of those tables there or something? And
I'd have to ask. I know that's with City Hall being closed. I don't know if they'll let the public in, but that's something I can ask for sure if we schedule it. I know we have a meeting I have to call in remotely tomorrow for some of the internal groups. But I can ask the city manager and see. If not, we can figure something out.
Okay. Well, let's email. Thanks.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions? I've actually got to hop off to another meeting in about 9 minutes for work, so I apologize.
Well, thank you very much for coming and sharing your time with us. We really appreciate that.
Thank you. And thank y'all for having me. I look forward to hearing from you, Alan, and the group. And like I said, my contact info is on the city website. I know some of y'all have it. Penny was emailing me back and forth. But I look forward to hopefully meeting some of y'all face to face for sure. And here's some ideas.
Thank you, Shannon. All right, so let's go ahead and wrap up the meeting for today. If you guys have any follow-up, feel free to reach out to Shannon. And if you need her contact info, I'm sure we can get everybody connected. So our final thought for today is that it takes courage to lead a life, any life. So believe in yourself. All right, everybody, have a great